MODLR is a collaborative, multi-dimensional spreadsheet platform in the cloud. In this modelling tutorial series, we'll build a working annual budgeting model in MODLR. We'll show you how to build one from scratch for a retail stationery company named Wiz. Wiz are still manually consolidating spreadsheets, making their budgeting cycles hugely inefficient and prone to errors. This year, they're moving to MODLR to streamline their budgeting process. Wiz's new annual budgeting model on MODLR will include revenue, OPEX, labour, marketing, and balance sheet modules. Let's get started on the revenue module. We will set up 3 workviews which allow us to do some simple forecasting of retail sales for Wiz. A price planning workview which will allow us to easily adjust product prices. A discount planning workview which will allow us to plan discounts and see how it affects a product's price. And a volume planning workview which will allow us to forecast unit volumes and see how that translates into sales revenue and margin. To follow along with this tutorial, you can sign up to a free trial account on MODLR by signing up on our homepage. You can find the formulas and sales file data in the instructions below. Let's get started. First, let's create the model which we will call Wiz Performance Management. We will leave the time granularity as months, as this will be the lowest level of our time dimension, and we will be using a July to June financial year. Now that we have our model, we will create a time dimension by clicking Dimensions in the model's navigation menu to the left and click New Dimension. We will name the dimension Time, and the dimension type will be Time. We can check that it has the years we need by double-clicking on our new time dimension, which opens it up in a new tab. So our time dimension runs from 2018 to 2022, which is what we want for Wiz's revenue model. But if we needed to add to those years, we can go to the Process tab and run the System Dimension Time process, which will allow us to rebuild the dimension with the years that we specify. We should also create some initial variables for the current month and current year. To create a variable for the current month, click on Variables to the left and click New Variable. In the key field, we will write time.current month, making sure there's no space in between time and current. And as the example of this value, we will write 2019 Joule and click Create Variable. We will create another variable for the current year by clicking on New Variable again and changing the word month to year. We will edit our value field this time to be 2020 because the time dimension uses the financial year. These variables are useful when building reports or if you want actuals to be pulled into your rolling forecast scenario. Now we have Wiz's actual sales data for their stationery products, which we want to use to create and populate a cube. To use this data, we can upload the sales data file into MODLR's File Manager on the far left navigation menu and click the Upload File button, and then either browse for the file in question by clicking Choose File, or simply drag and drop the file and click Upload. Now you can see the file is in the system. Let's build a cube with it. We will create a process called Load Sales, so go back and go to Processes and click New Process. And we will call it Load Sales. And then double click on Load Sales to open it in a new tab, and then we can edit it. We want to select the action Build a Cube from Data, and we will call the cube Revenue. Then in the Data Source field to the right, we need to select the MODLR file system, and then as our table, choose the sales CSV and click preview. This will show us a preview of the table's first 8 rows of our sales file. And now we can open the build actions by clicking the dash icon on the right hand side and start to map the table's columns. The data in our SKU column will be an element, so click the build drop down and select element, and we will name the dimension product. Product name will be used as an alias for elements in the product dimension. Creating an alias gives dimensions recognizable titles which can be turned on and off within a report, allowing stakeholders viewing the model to easily understand the data. We will call this dimension product, and we will call the alias name, and that will affect SKUs. So select SKU under the element field. Brands will be used to group the products in the product dimension, so select grouping in the build drop-down field. The dimension again will be product, and we will create a hierarchy called all products by brand, and once again that will affect SKU, so select SKU in the child field. The brand name will also be an alias for the product dimension, so we will select the element alias in the build drop-down, and the dimension will be product, and again the alias will be name, but we will instead select brand under the element field. For the department column, we will select element in the build drop-down, and we will create a department dimension. For the scenario column, we will select this time element scenario and create a dimension called scenario. The next 4 columns are filled with values for different measures. We have units, price, cost price, and discount percentage. So for units, we choose data in the drop-down, and the measure is units. For price, it's also data in the drop-down, and the measure is price. For cost price, it's again data, and the measure is cost price. And discount percentage is data, and the measure is discount percentage. And the final column will match the date to the month elements in our time dimension. We will select the element time in the build drop-down and call the dimension time. And the format we will be using is date, month, and the full year. We will also add a calculated column which will group brands under a parent called all brands. So click add calculated field. In the build drop-down, we choose grouping and add a field calculation by clicking the small calculator icon on the left and type under the field formula all brands, which will still be in speech marks. The dimension will be product, and the hierarchy will be called all products by brand. We want this hierarchy to exactly match the hierarchy we use for brands, and the child field will be brand. We have named the process load sales, and then click validate and save and execute process. And then we will execute the process by clicking execute. We can look at the logs for the process at the bottom of the page, and because the data set is quite small, it only took a couple of seconds to run. Now we will need to add some new elements which were not included in the sales file into some of the dimensions. So we will go back, we will go into dimensions, and in the scenario dimension, which we double click to open, we will add a scenario hierarchy by clicking the Add button next to it and call it Planning Scenarios. We will then edit the Planning Scenarios hierarchy and replace the information there with Live Forecast. Then click Save Changes and go back to Dimensions. Open the Revenue Measures dimension. And here we will also add Price Override and Cost Price Override and Price and in brackets Post Discount. We will also add Sales, Cost, Margin, and Margin Percentage. We will calculate these off of the elements created during the load sales process. And click Save Changes. Now we have those elements in, let's create our first work view. So go into Work Views. This work view won't be used by planners. We will simply use it to make it easier for us to set up the initial formulas for the revenue cube. So you can create a new work view by selecting New Work View, or by selecting Actions, New Work View. Our action will be to create a new work view on an existing cube, and the work view name will be Revenue Calculations, and working off of the revenue cube. We will double click to open the Revenue Calculations work view. Now we're in the work view, we can rearrange the dimensions. We will put measures on rows and time on columns, and the rest we will leave as selectable dimensions. We will change the instructions for the time dimension so it can be entirely expanded by double clicking on the time dimension to open it and removing Enable Drill Down from the Set Instructions and selecting Expand All by double clicking it from the group Set Manipulation in the Instruction Dictionary. And now we can see all years, quarters and months here. We will also change the settings for the product and department dimensions so we can select any element from their drop-down by clicking on the icon to the right of their drop-down menus to open the set instructions and deselecting Enable Drill Down and selecting Expand All and click Save. And we will do the same again for the department dimension. We will select Brisbane as the department and Binders as the product. For the scenario dimension, we can change the hierarchy settings to Planning Scenarios from the hierarchy drop-down under the dimension structure on the left. And now we can double-click Live Forecast to add it to the set instructions. We will also remove Enable Drill Down from the set instructions and click Save. When there's a red dot visible in the Workview tab, it means it has unsaved changes. So I'll save the workview by clicking the Workview drop-down and click Save. Now we can start adding in our formulas by right-clicking on a cell where we want the formula to apply and selecting Edit Formula. For sales, the formula is simply units multiplied by price multiplied by open bracket 1 minus the discount percentage, close bracket, and click Save. Next, the cost formula is units multiplied by cost price. And the margin formula is sales minus cost and the margin percentage formula is margin divided by sales, and we will select this to be an average or rate calculation so that it works on parent elements. The next formula is a bit more complicated. We want a rolling forecast, so we want values in historic months to equal actuals. So we will select live forecast in the scenario drop-down, then open the formula editor on any cell. Because we want this formula to apply across all measures, we will click on revenue measures and change the setting to don't restrict. However, we want this formula to only apply to the live forecast, so we click on scenario and change the setting to restrict to live forecast. It's important to call this formula actuals into forecast. And we will use this formula here, which can be found in the description below. Please note that variables require exact matching from your variables which you created at the start of your tutorial, including letter cases and spaces. Element names, however, are not case sensitive and ignore spaces. So, this formula is if the position of a cell's time element within the month list hierarchy is earlier than the position of the variable in the same hierarchy, then the cell will equal actual. Otherwise, the cell will continue onto a lower priority formula. And then we will save that formula. Then open the formula editor and rearrange the formula in the formula list so actuals into forecast is at the top, which is the highest priority, and then update the new order. Now we have the initial formulas set up, let's create some new workviews for Wiz. We can either leave the workview and open a new workview and start from scratch, or instead we can use this workview as our base by making a copy of it. So let's hit Save As and call our new workview Price Planning. Now we still have our original workview, but also we have a copy with a new name. For price planning, we won't need to see all measures, so let's change the instructions for the measures dimension by double-clicking it, so we only show price, price override, cost price, and cost price override. We also don't want to have to select each product one by one, so we'll rearrange dimensions so that products are on rows just above measures. We also don't need to see the price for all products, so we will double click on the All Products dimension and select Remove Consolidations from the instruction dictionary. Now, to tidy up the report, we can add a blank space after each cost price override to separate the products. Choose Add Blank Space from the set formatting in the instruction dictionary. Let's save the workview. We can also tidy up the time dimension by double-clicking a time dimension cell and removing Set Default and Expand All, and adding Insert Variable Time Current Year from the Model Variables group, and add a blank space after from the Set Formatting group. Then we will add from the Sequential Functions, Insert Next Member from Default. We can also add Expand All and Remove Consolidations. Also, because this report will only be used for planning, we will open and edit the scenario and remove the default to actuals instruction and leave the live forecast in the instructions. So now we have restricted the scenario elements and we can only see the live forecast in the scenario drop-down. Let's save the work view. Now we've built this report's dimensions, let's create two formulas which roll the sale price and cost price forward. Open the formula editor by right-clicking, and we will restrict the scenario to the live forecast, as this formula will only be used in future periods. For price, we will use this formula. This formula grabs the previous month's price, which is what we want. However, we also need a way to change the price. This is where the overrides come in. So again, we will edit the formula for price, and we will change it to be if the price override equals 0, grab the previous month. Otherwise, we want the price override. And now, if we add a price override, such as 6, we can see the price in August 2019 grabs the price override. You can then copy this formula for the price and add it to cost price. And we will also restrict the scenario to live forecast. And in the formula, we will replace all prices with cost prices instead. And if we add a cost price override of say 2, the cost price in August 2019 grabs the override. Now we can create a new work view for Wiz's discount planning. Once again, we will save as and name our new work view discount planning. The only things we will change are what measures we will be showing. So double click on a measures dimension cell. We will show price, discount percentage, and price post discount. And we will create a formula for price post discount, which is price multiplied by open bracket 1 minus discount percentage and close bracket, and save formula. We will save this work view, and finally we will create a volume planning work view by clicking save as and name it volume planning. In this work view, we will show each product with a units measure, but we will group them by brand and also show the brand's total units, sales, cost, margin and margin percentage. To do this, we will need to use multiple sets. For our first set, we will select the pencil set and change the hierarchy from default to all products by brand, and we want expand all, remove consolidations, and show alias name in the set instructions for brand 1, and move brand 1 to the top. And we will change the measures to only use units. Then to show brand 1's total units, sales, cost, margin and margin percentage, we can right click on the last row header, go to change table and select insert row set after selection. So with this new set for brand 1's totals, we will change the hierarchy again to all products by brand. We will use brand 1 and we will select show alias name from the element formatting group in the instruction dictionary. And for the measures, we will add units, sales, cost, margin, and margin percentage. We'll also add a blank space which will separate this from the next set. We will repeat these steps and create 2 new sets for each brand, a set for individual products and a set for brand totals. So right-click on the last row header and go to Change Table and select Insert Row Set after selection. So for brand 2, begin with changing the hierarchy to all products by brand and add brand 2. In the set instructions, add expand all, remove consolidations and show alias name. For the measures, we will select just units. To show brand 2's totals, we will again add a blank product row below and double click to change the hierarchy to all products by brand and select brand 2 and show alias name. The respective measures will be units, sales, cost, margin and margin percentage, and add a blank space. Add 2 more new sets for brand 3 by repeating the steps from brand 2. Then we will add 1 more set which will hold a total for all products under the default hierarchy. So this time, instead of selecting brands, we will just select all products. The measures will be units, sales, cost, margin and margin percentage. While planning, we might want to see and compare yearly totals. So once again, we will right-click on a row header, but instead of a new row set, we will select Insert Column Set before selection. And in this set, we will use our current year variable. We will use both the previous member and next member from the default hierarchy. Now we can start forecasting for 2020. We can enter in the numbers manually, but that would be very time consuming. Instead, because we expect sales to follow largely the same trend as 2019, we can copy 2019's number by double clicking the units for all products for 2020 cell and typing in copy 2019 with 2019 in quote marks. Also, to forecast an increase in sales for 2020, in the same cell, we can either set the amount by typing set and the amount, for example 18,500, or we could add to the current amount by typing add and either an amount or a percentage increase, for example 10%. Here you can see 10% has been added to 2020 sales. This concludes our revenue planning tutorial. Don't forget to sign up to MODLR's free trial account or submit any questions to MODLR's community forum. Thanks for watching.